Hi there. Thank you for joining me on the Passionative podcast, where we talk about following your passion, creativity, and doing what you love. This is your host Sagar Mehta, and today I want to talk about building the belief that success is possible for you and the concept of not caring about the outcome. In April, I took part in this challenge called the National Poetry Writing Month, or NaPoWriMo. This is just like NaNoWriMo, where people around the world get together in November to write their novel in 30 days. NaPoWriMo is just the same thing, except you have to write one poem each day. I was introduced to this by a friend of mine and just took it up on a whim. And I was glad that I did. Sitting down to write a poem each day, trying to get my creative juices flowing, and finding things to write about was quite the task. And yet, it was fun because I was trying really hard to not give up halfway through the month. To my own surprise, I actually completed the challenge and ended up writing 31 poems instead of the 30 that I needed to. On top of that, I launched my own poetry challenge for other Indian poets to write in their native language. Now, I've talked about creating a daily habit, a daily ritual if you want to pursue something that you love. And even though you will hear that advice everywhere, I understand that it is quite difficult to get started and then keep at it. I've myself started tons of projects all excited and then quit just because I lost interest after a few days. When we do that with something we actually want to do, there's this weird mix of anger and frustration that we feel. And it is not aimed at any person or thing in particular. It's mostly us being disappointed with ourselves for not being able to do what we set out to do. Somehow, though, I was able to complete the poetry challenge and I did not have to force myself to do it. It came very naturally and it was almost as if the 30 days went by in a blur. Sure, there were days I struggled to put down even a single line that made some sense. Other days I was full of things to talk about. But I was able to see why it worked for me this time, and that is what I want to share with you now. If you want to follow your passion, one of the best things you can do is to work on it daily, each day. It does not matter how much time you spend on it, but as long as you spend some time on it, you are doing it right. Time is the best thing that you can give to yourself and to your work that you care about. So here are a few things that I found out work really well in creating a daily habit by creating a personal challenge. So of course, first, look at it as a challenge. A number of times we start something without seeing how difficult it is going to be past day 3 or day 4 to still keep coming back to it. We start with a lot of enthusiasm and simply end up disappointed when we have to give up. It is better, I think, to take it up as a challenge from the very beginning. Whether it is art or music or anything else, you've got to commit to it as a challenge. Acknowledging that it is difficult and still doing it means that you're still letting your mind know that it has no options when the going gets tough. You've already made the decision. You still got to do what you set out to do. Second, share it with people you know. Anything we do that people know about has some built-in accountability. When I took up the challenge, I made sure that I posted about it on my social channels and shared what I was creating as well. Even those 10 or 20 people who bothered to check out my work encouraged me to keep going and kept me on task. If you are an artist, you could take up a 30-day art challenge and share it, talk about it, and let people know. This will keep you accountable and you will keep coming back to it the next day. Third, keep it simple. When I was writing a poem each day, it wasn't about writing poetry that made sense right away. It was more about getting things out of my system and onto the screen. This is how most daily rituals work. It's not about producing your best work. It's about producing some work. Take away all the pressure and think of the easiest, smallest manner in which you can hit your daily goal of working on what you love. And don't be afraid of sharing your work either. Even though you may think that it isn't awesome, your friends will still like it and every bit of positive feedback helps. Fourth, take it one step at a time. If you're sitting down to write, maybe come up with just the title or the first line of the piece. If it's a sketch, draw just a rough outline to start. If you want to learn to dance, focus on doing just one step or even just dressing up for that day's workout. Any small step you can take that can get the ball rolling works very, very well. Once you do that, it is very hard to give up at that point of time. Fifth, use a daily deadline. With the poems I was writing, I had to post something online before the day was over. So that was a constant source of worry as well as inspiration. It didn't matter when and how I wrote it, as long as I did it before the day was over. So use a particular time or the end of the day as your personal daily deadline, whatever works for you. But you'll see that as the deadline closes in, your mind will find ways to get stuff done on its own. What all of this does is that it helps you to stop caring about the outcome altogether. Instead of wondering if you're doing the right thing or whether things are going somewhere or if you're producing your best work or even half decent work, you are laser focused on simply getting something done, getting something out there. Your attention shifts from figuring out what to work on that day to instead simply working on whatever comes to mind. It is at once powerful and fun. At the end of your personal challenge, you will notice that your mind suddenly lives in this weird zone of possibilities. You'll begin to believe that something is possible for you and that you can do it yourself. Trust me, it would not be surprising at all if you start looking for new challenges to work on right away. And if you don't find there is a challenge out there, you can simply create one and inspire others instead. This not only makes you want to work on your own stuff, but also adds the responsibility of helping others out and inspiring them to keep coming back to their own personal challenge, which is another way to live your passion. Take up a challenge to work on your passion each day and experience this magic of creating a daily habit around what you love. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Passionative podcast. I'm always happy to hear from you about your passion, your struggles, and your challenges. Simply go to Passionative.co and let's get talking. This is your host Sagar Mehta signing off. Stay awesome.